Universitas Swadaya Gunung Jati in partnership with ADRI. It is also proud of us to have 3 keynote speakers with us here. And then the 3 keynote speakers are from different part of the world and also from different background of knowledge. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to invite the 3 keynote speakers one by one. The first speaker is Professor Dr. Chaloner Amatero from University of San Carlos, Philippines. Welcome to the stage. And the second is Professor Dr. Kamisa Osman from University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Please welcome to the stage. And our last keynote speaker is Professor Dr. Sukrelang Puteh from University of Thailand University, Fatani University in Thailand. Okay, please give a very big applause to our 3 keynote speakers. Welcome to Indonesia. Welcome to Cirebon, Swagati. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before presenting each of the presenters' material, we are going to give you each curriculum vitae of our keynote speakers. The first is for Professor Dr. Chaloner Amatero. Yeah, Professor Dr. Chaloner Amatero, focusing on auditing and accountancy. He's very active in international research and also as a reviewer in some journals in international scale. He also involves with community like NGO. Please give a very big applause to Professor Dr. Chaloner Amatero from San Carlos University, Philippines. Then the second will be for Professor Dr. Kamisa Osman. Professor Dr. Kamisa Osman is from Kebangsaan University of Malaysia. Her recent position is as Deputy Director of National University of Malaysia in Research Management Knowledge Center. The background knowledge of Professor Dr. Kamisa Osman is from science education, and she achieves science education from University of Manchester in UK for both Master in Science Education and PhD in Science Education. And our last keynote speaker is Professor Dr. Professor Dr. Sukrelang Puteh. Professor Dr. Sukrelang Puteh is beside me. He is from Thailand, from Fatani University, Thailand. Professor Dr. Sukrelang Puteh is as Deputy Rector for International Relations and Alumni. His experiences are not only from inside university but also from out of the university, like being Hajj Committee of Thailand and Standing Committee for House of Parliament on Islamic Affairs. And he has also achieved award. One of the award is the 500 most influential Muslim in the world in 2009. Okay. Please, audience, give a very big applause to the keynote speaker. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have the session of presentation for each of the keynote speakers. We are going to give 15 minutes of each of the presentation, and then we start from Professor Dr. Matero. Okay, time is yours.
Thank you, and magandang hapon from the Philippines. Mabuhay. Okay, so the title of my presentation is Social Capital, the Social Entrepreneurship Center of a private Catholic university in the Philippines. Just this morning, one of the presenters just told us that if you're going to have a memorandum of agreement or understanding, you have to make sure that there should be implementation. Because if we are going to have some collaboration and there's no implementation, then it's not a good collaboration. So the outline of my presentation is that I will present the abstract of the study, the introduction, what is social capital, intellectual capital and organizational advantage, the methodology that we were using, discussion and implication, and conclusion. So the abstract of this is that this is a case method. We are using yen in 1981. Supposedly, we are using Eisenhardt. If you are familiar with the case study design, supposedly we are using that, but since we can just only use the how and why of yen, Robert Yen in 1981, so we just make use of Robert Yen 1981 research design, not the methodology. Because methodology, case methodology, meaning the strategy itself, we can get it from Eisenhardt. But since this is just one case of a private university, then better to use yen. We analyze social capital, and we are using Nahapiet and Ghoshal in 1998. As individuals, because in the case of Nahapiet and Ghoshal, they are not actually focused on individuals, but they are focused on the firm or organization doing the social capital. In this case, I will presenting with you that individuals also is a prerequisite of doing social capital. And then towards the end, I will be presenting, after the analysis, I will be presenting the recommendation as well as the conclusion. So, to start with, let's look into the schematic diagram of Nahapiet and Ghoshal. You can find that in this particular schematic diagram, you have on the right-hand side, you can find structural dimension. So you have letter A, structural dimension, cognitive dimension, relational dimension. Now, these important dimensions are very important as we are going to analyze our collaboration with a foreign university. And then we can take a look of the network ties, the network configuration, appropriable organization, the shared codes and languages that, of course, if you have some collaboration, you should have some codes or language that you can understand. Even if you did not articulate it, you understand it already because you have that common code or language. And then we have relational dimension, the trust, norms. Okay, trust, definitely, we understand what is trust. If we trust that person, we can definitely do something, and we trust that that person will not destroy our engagement. But if you're talking about norms, it talks about, it's not you who will dictate what are you going to do, but it's the third person, the third party. It's the norm. Some kind like that. It's a norm. And then obligation, definitely if you have to engage yourself with an organization, you have an obligation. You have to understand what is expected of you and what you expect from that organization. because you should have a win-win scenario. Cannot be that you have collaboration and you just have to do something. So you should have expectation from each other. And then you have a combination and exchange of intellectual capital, and then you have the creation of intellectual capital. And then after that, I will discuss just briefly. I will run through the slides. So this is the theory of the firm as the basis of our research. Nahapiat and Ghoshal, as I told you already, it's focused on the firm, the organization. So the limitation of their study is that they are not talking about individuals. They are talking about the organization itself. But we feel that if we are going to discuss about the individuals, individuals are the prerequisite for the attainment of the objective of the organization. So in this case, Nahapiat and Ghoshal, they were talking about the firm, not individual. In our study, we are discussing also the role of individuals for the attainment of the organization's objective. Now, if you are familiar with social capital, who are the authors who we can say that they are the bedrock of social capital? Now, you might be thinking, what is social capital in the first place? Now, according to that authors, they're the bedrock authors of the social capital. Coleman, although his study was about dropout rates for students, but actually he defined about social capital that if there is a strong social capital within community, then there will be less dropouts. Social capital means the community is very supportive of the activity of individuals or members of that particular community. Putman, on the other case, talking about the network, the norms, that if there is trust, social capital definitely will be a very good investment. So, you know, I'm accounting major. I'm accounting in my undergrad and do a master's in business and public administration in my doctorate. But this is the time that I reflected that social capital can be accounted for, probably in the future. But when I searched the literature, there's no social capital accounting yet. But if you're going to review the study of Bordeaux in 1986, he was already talking about investment in social capital, and this investment will keep on increasing if you keep on engaging organization. So this is a social capital, a type of capital that will not be depleted. I study accounting. Capital can be depleted if you use the capital. Definitely, if you use it to have revenue, then you have income from the revenue. But social capital, even you reviewed the study of Bordeaux in 1986, this capital will not be depleted if you use it. It will be increased. Now, with that, our paper, we discuss individuals. This is in an expansion of Nahapiat and Ghoshal in 1998 study. So we also align with what we like with Nahapiat and Ghoshal is that they are focused on interrelationship of organization. We like it so much that since our case is about organization, then it is fit to our analysis. So in this case, we are talking about cognitive dimension. Cognitive dimension is about the common codes, language, and storyline, which is aligned with Marshall of 1998. So again, we cover Putnam, we cover Bordeaux, and we cover Coleman in the case of Nahapiat and Ghoshal of 1998. Okay, why organization? In this case, I will be presenting PCU stands for Private Catholic University in the Philippines, while FCU stands for a foreign Catholic university it's in the United States. Why we are analyzing this? Because they have the capabilities to create and share the knowledge. So the concept of social capital in this case is a relationship, a resource of social action. So that's a new term that we can understand in relation to social capital. Social capital is definitely related to social action. That's why we are talking about social entrepreneurship, because that's a social action. It is not a unidimensional, meaning it is not applicable to all. Because you have to take note, you have to have a common language, the common code, so you have to understand each other. So if you are not within our engagement, then definitely that's not yours. We take note that different authors on this particular topic, they define social capital differently. So if you are more of the political side, you define it differently. If you're on the economic side, you define it differently as well. But the way we define social capital is that it is the firm concept, it is the organization concept of how they interact, how they use the dimensions, relational, cognitive dimension, and structural dimension, such that they can have social capital. Okay, so we are aligning with Bordeaux of 1986, as Bordeaux is actually the first to define social capital. Okay, and Nahapiet is just talking about in 1998, but the Putnam study is also definitely suggesting what is really the meaning of social capital. While we are talking about on that level, now let me go to Asian and go down to the Philippine setting. So Wolcott said that if you're talking about social capital, it's translated differently, but it could be the same as in Asia or Africa. So therefore, we are talking about Preeti. Preeti in 2003 had a study of different program, different continents, including Asia, North America, South America, and Australia. And the study, they are talking about building trust. They are talking about development of new norms. They are talking about cooperation, which is actually the schematic diagram of Nahapiet and Ghoshal. Remember of the relational dimension, the trust, the norms, the obligations, and etc. Now, we go back to the Philippines. So from that macro and then to the Asian context, now let's go to the Philippines. There's a study in the Philippines and talking about social capital also. So again, it's aligned with what is defined in the scale. So this is another study in the Philippines and still aligned with the definition of social capital of Bordeaux. And then intellectual capital here is not about the individual knowledge, but this is about the collective knowledge. So again, this is the argument of Nahapiet and Ghoshal that social capital facilitates the development of intellectual capital. So social capital in this case is aggregation of individual phenomena. So it's like an aggregation. It's not individual steps, but it's aggregation. It's the total, it's the whole picture. So I discussed this already and contextualized. Still have time. Okay, so the focus here is social explicit knowledge. So in this case, you can remember that knowledge is definitely, there are types of knowledge. There is individual explicit and tacit knowledge, and there is social explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. Let me just explain those terms. Maybe you understand what is individual and you understand what is social, or meaning the community. But you have to remember, explicit knowledge is you can see it, you can observe it. But the tacit knowledge is that it's just on the brain of the person. It's on the brain of the individual. Okay? Tacit knowledge cannot be observed. Okay? So that's why tacit knowledge is automatic knowledge. It's not conscious knowledge. Okay, so our focus of analysis is social knowledge, both tacit and explicit knowledge. So this is now, if you have the exchange, therefore, if you have exchange of social capital, then intellectual capital will definitely be part of the exchange. So social capital facilitates the development of intellectual capital, definitely on that particular study. Okay, so this is now the why. Why is it that organization? So in this place, in this particular case that we did a study, organization really is our basis. Okay, again, it's conducive to development of high level of social capital. So therefore, you can just, because the study is not about social entrepreneurship, the study is about social capital. So we briefly just define what is social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship is different from being an entrepreneur. Because social entrepreneurship is that you are going to take note of the problem of humanity and you scale it up. You're not talking about your profit, but you're talking about the humanity, the community, how to improve the community rather than your own profit. But the way you improve the profit, you have to improve also the community itself. Not just you who will do the profit, but the community will take part of the profit. So that's social entrepreneurship. Okay, so that's the definition of social entrepreneurship of Martin and Osberg. So we do an exploratory research using the case study of Yen. Okay, just move on. So this is a case of private Catholic university. Since this is a keynote speech, I actually would like to tell you who is that private Catholic university, and I will tell you also who is that foreign Catholic university later on the slide. Okay, so that's the foreign Catholic university, and we have another organization. We call it as the Philippine NGO. That's a code name, but it's actually, there's a name for that. Okay, so go, and then we have another entity. And again, the limitation of the study is this. This is Nahapiat and Goshal of 1998 analysis. So the roots of intellectual capital deeply embedded in social relations and in the structure of these relations. We have to understand that. In that case, explaining the existence and contribution of the firm. Okay, so this is about discussion and implication already. I hope you are following with me. There you are. Since this is a keynote speech, I actually changed the implication of the study. I used already the real names. So this is our collaboration with Santa Clara University. It's California-based university. That particular picture, that's actually, you can take note that the Miller Center of Santa Clara University, they're very good in social entrepreneurship. You can search the net and you can take note what they are doing about social entrepreneurship for your added knowledge. Now you have to take a note that they posted this picture, you can find me there, they posted this picture in April 5 of 2017. But this happened in January of 2017. So this particular, you have to remember the schematic diagram of Nahapiat and Goshal about structural dimension. We are talking about trust. We are talking about norms. We are talking about obligations. We are talking about identification within each other. So it's a very long process because after the January, this picture last January of 2017, we had a lot of online meetings with this university. And we take note for that as we do. And we understand and reflect that we need to have more of trust, more of looking into the common language of each other, looking into the common codes to each other, such that we can implement something.
Excuse
Remember,
me.
it's just a little, 2 minutes. Remember that this one is April. So we have to take note for that dimension. Okay, so facets of social capital reduce transaction cost. Okay, so this happened in 2018 already. Manila Bulletin is a national newspaper in the Philippines, and they already noticed what we did in this particular part of the Philippines. So they said social entrepreneurship curbed the country's poverty. So that's more or less a lot of months already. Okay, so this is just the summary. Intellectual capital concentrated, creating, including its diffusion and exploitation. Exploration of organizational advantage began with a proposition, and the knowledge process will follow. Social and intellectual capital in the context of exploring and explaining the source of organizational advantage. Okay, so this is the last slide already. Connections, so this probably is the one that I will share with you. Connections is not a natural given or even a social given. It is a product of endless effort of the institution. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. And the second presenter will be from Professor Dr. Kamisa Osman. Time is yours.
Thank you very much to Mrs. Dian, our moderator for this afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon, sorry. So I'm going to be maybe a little bit of quick, because I prepared this presentation for 30 minutes, but I only have 15 minutes. Now, I'll be talking about CT, which is computational thinking and science learning, because I'm coming from educational background. So I'm going to share with you what we in Malaysia have done in order to integrate as well as develop students' computational thinking skills. Now, before I start, I just want to to advertise or to share my university. So my university is National University of Malaysia. So we are currently at 184 positions in QS ranking, and for universities under 50 years old, we are at the position of 16. And according to subject area, our university is also highly ranked in terms of social science and management, as well as engineering and technology. So for those in this hall who would like to pursue your doctoral or your master's study, so you are welcome to my university. Okay, since I'm working at the Research Management Center, so we would like you to join us, based on our track achievement. Now, okay, this is the structure of my presentation. So first, I would like to emphasize why at the moment we need to emphasize on computational thinking. Now, I would like also to share computational thinking initiative in Malaysia, and maybe just a glimpse of it. I'm going to also inform you about the informal learning in order to further inculcate computational thinking in Malaysia. Now, why computational thinking? Okay, in this conference, I think we have been hearing about creativity, innovation, fourth industrial revolution, so on and so forth, as well as challenges for us as educators in especially with regard to the teaching and learning process. Now, sorry, it's not very efficient. Okay, now, what is the future? We know that technology is everywhere, just like the theme of this conference. Okay, we know that advancement in holographic television, advancement in broadcasting as well as entertainment, transportation, so on and so forth, require our future generation, okay, to be knowledgeable as well as skillful with regard to technology. Now, with regard to jobs, because those changes will certainly require different set of skills. Now, if we look through what is happening in our education system, I'm giving you 4 scenarios. So our current education system, whether we are now preparing our children, our students, for the job that do not exist yet. So if we could see, in 18th century, the methods that we are currently using now is still the same as the methods that have been used or being introduced in the 18th century. So whether we have done enough or what we are currently doing is suitable in preparing our children in facing challenges as well as future job market as well as requirements, so on and so forth. Now, scenario number 2, we know that I think everybody here in this room is very familiar with Bill Gates, Now, Bill Gates in 2012 emphasized that our education system is failing to produce highly skilled workers. So because of the methods, because of the approaches that we are currently using is not suitable for our children. Okay, at the same time, okay, most of us educators, we are allegedly, okay, said that, yeah, we are not producing independent learners. So independent learners or self-directed learning is very important in this 21st century. So it's not only our methods is not suitable, we are currently failed to produce independent learners. Okay, so let's stop spoon-feed our student. Now, if you look at scenario number 4, if you look at the graph, yeah, if we look at the graph, it says that fewer computer science students than 10 years ago. Okay, and half as many as women. Okay, meaning that declining numbers of our computer scientists, even we know that in the future, we really need more computer scientists. Okay? Now, it is also a global problem that we know that computers will displace humans in 60% of current occupation. I think just now, from one of our keynotes, yeah, this morning, he emphasized the fact that in this current fourth IR revolution, many of jobs, you know, might be changed and might be replaced by robots. So, yeah, it is being predicted that computers will displace in humans' job in almost 60%. And Hadi is also emphasized that understanding how technology works, how the internet works, and learning to solve problems with computational thinking, these skills that are as important as learning how electricity works, how digestion works, or solving problems using algebra. So, you know, the 4 scenarios that I have given to you, yeah, paint a very clear picture why we need to teach our students about computational thinking. And these are the main challenges of educators, especially in this current 21st century. Now, so what is computational thinking? Okay, I've given you the tables, but basically, computational thinking is a skill. Maybe I skip this, yeah, because this is the situation in Malaysia. Now, this is also just want to share with all of you that, you know, STEM professions need most computational thinking, but since we don't have enough time, maybe I skip this. So I'm going to introduce you what is computational thinking. Now, computational thinking is the thought process involved in formulating problems and their solutions, so that the solutions are represented in a form that can be effectively carried out by information processing agent. Now, in most computational thinking literature, especially the wave in America, as well as in the United Kingdom and the whole of Europe, mostly the work of Wing, yeah, is being quoted and being referred for this definition of computational thinking. Basically, computational thinking involves 6 main concepts: decompose, pattern recognition, abstraction, algorithm, logical reasoning, as well as evaluation. Now, if most of us are very familiar with higher order thinking, so we can also, okay, we can also agree that most of our computational thinking concepts are also encompass higher order thinking. Okay. Now, what is decomposition? Yeah, in decomposition, meaning that students need to be able to break tasks into minute detail. Now, what about pattern recognition? In pattern recognition, refer to the children's ability to notice similarities or common differences. Abstraction. So, in this case, abstractions require us to choose the right methods, to selectively choose what are the best procedures that we need to undertake in order to solve certain problems given to us. Okay, Algorithm, I think most of us are very familiar with algorithm, which refer to the ability to develop a step-by-step strategy for solving a problem. Okay, and then logical reasoning. Okay, these skills will be able to help children in order to make deductions, inference based on the information given to them. And finally, evaluation. Okay, in this sense, yeah, students are able to develop solution as well as to evaluate the suitability as well as the effectiveness of those solutions. So I guess based on the descriptions that I have given to you, or on all the 6 concepts of computational thinking, I think most of us agree that computational thinking can also be referred to higher order thinking, but it involves certain different set of skills like abstraction, decompositions, as well as algorithm. Yeah, I think for logical reasoning, evaluation, yeah, we have also been introduced about those concepts, and it has been longly categorized as higher order thinking. Now, so how we're going to integrate computational thinking? These are all main questions that we need to ask ourselves. Now, in this presentation, I would like to share our initiative in Malaysia. I'm also one of the master trainers of computational thinking. So under the auspices of Malaysian Development of Multimedia Corporation, so we have made an effort in order to inculcate and in order to integrate computational thinking in our school curriculum. So under the project called My Digital Maker, so we have developed our computational thinking developmental plan. So starting from exposure to all, revising the concept of integration of computational thinking into the school curriculum, until nurturing the interested parties, as well as grooming the talented talent, yeah, in order to further reinforce as well as enculture the use of computational thinking among the whole populations of Malaysia. So these are all this is the main roadmap, and in order to prepare our young one, so the main effort is to integrate CT and CS in the national school curriculum. Now we have started doing that. Starting from last year, we have revised our school curriculum even at the primary level, lower secondary, upper secondary, yeah, and we make sure that the element of computational thinking as well as computer science are both being integrated in the curriculum. Okay, so this is what we have done, and in order to ensure the effectiveness of this effort, we also partner with the industry. So we know that the industry plays an important role in guiding us and telling us what are the set of skills that are needed for the future industry. And under the Multimedia Development Corporation, Malaysian Multimedia Development Corporation, with the collaboration, with strong collaboration with the university, so we also prepared teaching modules for teachers. Okay, so we ask our teachers to integrate computational thinking, but we also provide them assistance in order to be able to do that. So modules were developed, and finally we also retrain our teachers through in-service teacher training. We have developed what we call CT and CS teaching certificate. So in that sense, teachers were called to undergo a course, okay, 1-week course for them to be exposed with computational thinking, how they can integrate computational thinking in teaching and learning. And at the same time, the teachers need to do what we call as action research in order to try to integrate computational thinking in their lesson. So guidance as well as close monitoring okay, are being guided and collaborated with the State Education Department. We help our teachers. We facilitate those teachers for them to be able to integrate computational thinking in their teaching and learning. So this is what we have done, and we have, I think for these last 2 years, and we just finished training our